Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the European Soccer Show. Thank you so much for staying with us, and apologies, it's a bit of a late start because we've been busy this week, but here we are at last. How are you, Leo?
Hi Daniel, how are you? I'm good after
Yeah.
this international break. It's cool to come back to the national championship and national
Well, I
leagues.
was going to ask, what
Everything.
was your what was your favorite part of the international break?
The in I have an opinion about the international break. I like it, to be honest, because we can make a break with football, a real break, because when it's the normal season, from Monday to Sunday, you have to watch games and everything. So the international break is like a calm moment in the season, and
Well,
that's why.
it's for the foreseeable future, it's not going to happen the same way again, is it?
Yeah,
Because from here on out, the October international break is going to be condensed into like a 2.5, 3 week period. So yeah, big breaks. Yes, I'm okay. Thank you. I'm okay. As well, I was telling you before we went live that I've changed location. I'm now in my partner's office, which is a much happier place than my gloomy little space. Right, let's crack on with the show today. I thought we'd kick off by talking about League. Yes, League 1. Because, it was a bit of a bonanza, wasn't it? Let's take you through some of the action. On Friday night, you had a gorgeous game between Paris Saint-Germain and Strasbourg, which finished 3-3. On Saturday, you had Nice 3, Lyon 2, another great game. Angers also drew with Monaco 1-1. But then, a riot of a game. Marseille 6, Le Havre 2. And then on to Sunday, things calmed down a little bit. Lens beating Paris FC 2-1. You had another 3-3 draw between Lorient and Brest. Nice level Brest there. Rennes drew 2-2 at home to Auxerre. Toulouse did not indeed. They won 4-0 at home to Metz. And Nantes lost the final game of the weekend 2-0 at home to Lille. Lille finding a return to form. Let's start with Friday night. Paris Saint-Germain 3, Strasbourg 3. First of all, this was an absolutely fun game, wasn't it?
yeah. To be honest, I think it was one of the best games of the season so far, between the two wealthiest. I think the two wealthiest teams in Ligue 1, the ones that spend the most last summer, because even if PSG didn't spend a lot, didn't bought a lot of players, because they just acquired Lucas Chevalier and Zabani, but they paid like more than 100 million euros for those two players. Strasbourg changed a lot, changes their squad a lot with a lot of new additions from Chelsea and from basically a lot of Premier League players like Junior Enciso, for example, Julio Enciso, sorry, who arrived from Brighton. So it was very fun game to watch.
Mm.
Panicelli arriving from
Well, let's
Milanese. Yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Let's take the through the
yo,
action. So at one point, Strasbourg were winning 3-1 in Paris, which is quite basically an unheard of thing. Paris losing at home. So Barcola opened the scoring before Panicelli equalised, and then Moreira gave Strasbourg the lead before half time. And then immediately after half time, Panicelli got his second. So 3-1, 40 minutes left, majority of the second half. But Paris Saint-Germain do come back and tie the game through a Ramos penalty and also Mayulu getting the equalising goal. My next question, so were Paris Saint-Germain off the game? Was Strasbourg that good? And who do we give more credit to? Do we give more credit to Strasbourg for sort of holding on for the draw? Because obviously the last 10 minutes they were under intense pressure but held on for the draw. Or do we give Paris Saint-Germain the credit for being able to come back regardless of the fact they were 3-1 down?
no, I would give credit to Strasbourg, to be honest, because playing at the Parc des Princes is always difficult. We have to note that Paris were with Doué, who came back from injury, and he provoked a penalty. He assisted Barcola on his first goal. Strasbourg is
Actually, we should point out there was an assist for both the Doué brothers.
yeah,
So
because
the I forget his name. It begins with a G. Is it?
Guéladoué is a wing back
Yeah.
playing for Strasbourg, and which is funny is that Désiré Doué play for France, and Guéladoué play for Ivory Coast. So it's interesting to say. And previously they both played at Rennes before going to PSG and Strasbourg. So here is the little story between the brothers. So yeah, Strasbourg are a very good team in Ligue 1. Of course, Panichelli is now the top scorer with 7 goals. Is he was bought about 18 or 20 million this summer, coming from Mirandes in Spanish second division. And yeah, he adapted well to Ligue 1. He's really powerful, like an old school striker. If you see, he's strong, very powerful, at ease in the air. Very, I would not say he's like a little mini Erling Haaland, because no one is like Erling Haaland, but he's just so lethal when he has the ball in the box. Yeah, great striker.
Fabulous. I mean, let's leave that there and go to the next one on Saturday. Nice 3, Lyon 2. I'm going to bring up something now rather than leave it to the end. So Paris Saint-Germain have only had 5 points from the last 4 matches. So obviously they're going through some injuries, and now their participation in the Champions League, there is an opportunity for these other big French clubs to sort of not just make ground, but also overtake them to try and get an advantage during this period, because Lord knows they need an advantage. But when you look down some of these teams, their form, it feels like a lot of them are losing this opportunity. So Lyon have just lost their last 2 matches. Marseille have won 4 in a row, so clearly they're making the most of it, and they now sit top of Ligue 1. But Lille have only got 4 points from the last 4 matches, and Monaco only 5. So if you look down the Ligue 1 table, you've got Marseille at the top on 18, Paris Saint-Germain on 17, and then you've got Strasbourg and Lyon on 16. Sorry, Lyon, and then Lyon on 15, Lille on 14, Monaco. And so you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
Do you think, are all of these teams wasting this opportunity, or do you think that this is actually more a better sign of a more competitive Ligue 1?
For example, you talked about Lyon. They lost two games in a row. They lost 2 games against Toulouse and this weekend against Nice. For example, it was 2 missed opportunities to go top of the Ligue 1. And they weren't that bad against those 2 teams, but
I mean, for context as well, against Nice, Nice had 5 shots, Lyon had 29.
Yeah,
Nice had 30% possession, Lyon had 70%. So we're not talking about a bad performance. They just, not only did they not convert their chances, but also they were weak defensively in the few moments that it felt like they completely capitulated.
Yeah, the defense line was a trouble, but to be honest, it was not necessarily a collective defeat, but some individualities failed. I can't think of another player than Ruben Kluivert, the son of, who had a terrible afternoon. He was on the first 2 goals of Nice. He was bought this summer for 4 million euros from Casapia. He was not meant to be a starter at Lyon, but because of the lack of depth in the squad, Niakate, who has been tremendous since the start, had to rest because he went to Senegal to play during the international break. Because Lyon will play Bâle on Thursday, they will play Strasbourg on Sunday. So they needed to change things. And yeah, here is the thing. We can see that there is a real like depth of squad, and I think it can hurt Lyon more than help them. Concerning the other favorite, Monaco, we've talked about it 2 or 3 weeks ago. They sacked Adi Hutter, replacing him by Sébastien Pocognoli from Union Saint-Gilloise. He didn't won his first game away at Angers. Lens, you mentioned it. You mentioned them against Paris FC. They have a great start to the season. They lost key players this summer.
They're currently fourth.
Yeah. They are under the management of Pierre Sage, who were previously at Lyon. You've heard about him for the way he put Lyon in Europe after being in the relegation zone two seasons ago. Rennes are deceiving, and Lille, they are sometimes they are good, sometimes they are bad. They lost, for example, that game against Lyon 1-0. They should have maybe win it. So yeah, there is an inconsistency in
Well,
the
let's leave
league.
this thought on a positive and go to our third and final match that we're going to cover on Ligue 1. So Marseille 6, Le Havre 2. A strange game, I mean, but also very fun. Le Havre actually took the lead in the 24th minute, but then they had a man sent off. Ruiz was sent off after just after the half-hour mark. So obviously spent more than an hour down to 10 men against a vicious Marseille attack, and one that has been potent ever since the start of the season, more or less. Yeah. 4 goals for Mason Greenwood. In fact, and then, so yes, Le Havre led 1-0. Eventually, it was 6-1 before a late Touré consolation. So Marseille sit top of the league. They're scoring goals for fun. It's things are looking good. Things are basically, they're ticking all the boxes, aren't they, Marseille? Although slightly chaotically rather than controlled.
Yeah, things are going good for Marseille. I've talked about the lack of depth from Lyon, and it's the opposite for Marseille. They have a great squad. They have good substitutes. We can talk about the youngster Robinho Vaz, who entered the game. He was implicated on 3 goals. He scored. He assisted also. He's a young, talented player. You mentioned Mason Greenwood scoring 4. So, yeah, and with that performances in Ligue, Marseille also are in the Champions League. They beat Ajax 4-0 on the second match day. They had a great game against Real Madrid on the first match day, even if they eventually lose 2-1 after the 2 Mbappe's penalties. So they have that thing. I think their attack is exceptional because there are a lot of qualities. The defense too is really good. When you have Pavard, who have been a starter at Bayern, then at Inter, World Cup champion with France, international. It's obviously a strong defender. Naïef Aguerd too is a real good addition. So they made a squad very strong defensively and offensively. So
it'll be interesting to see if Marseille, say as we're like near Christmas, near the winter break. Be interested to see if Marseille is still sort of 1 or 2 points away from Paris Saint-Germain, because then that would suggest that their squad is being able to keep up with European as well as domestic calendar. We'll park Ligue 1 there, although just a last word to say that Metz are at the bottom of the table with only 2 points, the only winless team left in Ligue 1. Right, let's go to the Premier League. The Premier League, another fun, interesting weekend. Lots of shocks in this one. So we start with Nottingham Forest 0, Chelsea 3. This was Ange Postecoglou's last game in charge before he got sacked only half an hour after this result, which is a shame because actually Forest in the first half were fantastic, and yet somehow lost 3-0. Chelsea got another red card. That's nice for them. Elsewhere, we also had Brighton 2, Newcastle United 1. A couple of goals from Danny Welbeck, rolling back the years, and a beautiful Voltemada goal, if you haven't seen it. Did you see that goal?
Yeah, I saw.
Oh.
Yeah,
if you haven't, anyone watching this, go and find it on other streaming platforms. It's a gorgeous little flick. Two promoted clubs faced each other. Burnley 2, Leeds United 0. Another fantastic goal there from Chuana. The game of the weekend, Crystal Palace 3, Bournemouth 3. A hat-trick for the Frenchman, Mateta, although he also could have won it in the 98th minute and missed an absolute sitter. Manchester City doing Manchester City things, winning 2-0 and not really being under any serious pressure. Sunderland 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0. Wolves still winless at this point. Fulham 0, Arsenal 1. Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday. Tottenham Hotspur lost at home 2-1 to Aston Villa. Liverpool did the same thing, lost at home, but to Manchester United. Manchester United winning back-to-back matches. Oh, goodness.
For the first time for Amorim.
Yes, under Amorim. And on Monday night, West Ham United, all sorts of problems, losing at home to Brentford 2-0. As I mentioned before, Ange Postecoglou, his last game in charge of Nottingham Forest, only 39 days he lasted. It was a strange appointment at the start, to going from a defensive coach, or rather a counter-attacking coach in Nuno Espirito Santo, to going into a more attacking, let's say progressive manager in Postecoglou after the season already started. This was never going to work, was it?
No, I think that's his first mistake to have accepted the job. And, we saw that Shandaish has been appointed as the new manager, and I think his profile of manager is a better fit for Forest squad, because he will want his team to defend well, then counter attack. And I think even if Forest lost Elonga this summer, their squad is based on that style of play, in my opinion. So I think it could be a good fit between them. And it's difficult for Postecoglou. I think the most difficult thing is that I saw the tweet announcing the is sacking like 15 or 20 minutes just after the game. So I think it was not really class, to be honest, to do that like that, because we all knew this.
Marinakis is, it's classy.
Yeah, but it's difficult for him. It's I don't really have a word for that. But and moreover, you've mentioned it. The score doesn't fully reflect the nature of the game, in my opinion, because as Forest had their chances, but they never seized it, and that's all the point in football, of course. But it was not a typical 3-0 victory. It was not like, for example, yesterday Bayer Leverkusen against PSG. It was just a demolition of PSG. I didn't feel Chelsea demolished Forest, but they were better, of course. But
I think all 3 goals were from set pieces as well. Postecoglou is undoing even
and Matt Sells, who had a great season last season. He was one of the best goalkeepers.
Golden Glove.
And this season is more difficult for him.
Okay, let's pop up. So we've got quite a few matches to sort of dip our toe into. So let's move to just a quick word on Palace Bournemouth. I mean, just a fantastic match, wasn't it? These are 2 clubs that I think in the article I wrote, I described them as beloved upstarts. So they're like 2 clubs that essentially everybody seems to have good, positive feelings towards, right? Because they shouldn't really be this good, and yet both teams genuinely are this good. Do you think it might also contribute the fact that both managers are into their final year of the contract, so there's less pressure, there's more sort of attacking intent because there's less worry about their future?
I can't answer to that because I don't have all the elements on that aspect. But as you said, it was a great game, to be honest. It reminded me a lot of this PSG Strasbourg game we've talked about, not only because it was a 3-3 game, but it was attacking minded. Two of the most entertaining teams in the Premier League at the moment.
Such unique tactical identities, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
obviously you've got Glasner's 3-4-3 that actually, well, 3-4-2-1 that actually works, you know. But you've also got Iraola's pressing 4-3-3, sort of shifting 4-2-3-1, that kind of thing. But like high intensity, pressing high, really like the transitions are incredible pace. Yeah, just like two really fun teams to
yeah.
watch.
And I think Bournemouth are one of the best team in the exercise of pressing their opponents in the Premier League. They are just so intense at some points. From that game, we can also point the you mentioned the hat trick from Mateta. Great week for him because he also scored his first goal with France against
First call up at all, didn't he? His first
yeah,
national
yeah.
call up. Yeah.
Yeah, against Azerbaijan, against Iceland, sorry. So great week. Elise Junior Kroupi, who played in Lorient, scored a brace again. Yeah, it's already they are already the second and third goal of the season. So it's good for him to adapt to the Premier League. At Lorient, we've already seemed he already seemed destined for a bright future. He was one of the key players of the team in League Two. So from League Two to Premier League, obviously there is a gap, but good for him, and he's very talented.
Only 19, I think.
Yeah,
Hopping off, just a quick word on Manchester City 2, Everton 0. Another 2 goals for Erling Haaland, which brings him to 23 goals in 13 matches in all competitions. If you include the assist, that's 26 goal
yeah,
involvements in just
yeah,
13
ridiculous.
matches. Insane. I mean, we'll get onto Harry Kane later, but the fact that Harry Kane is 24 and 12 and Haaland 26 and 13, so like
Yeah,
two classic centre forwards, although one runs in behind, one comes in short. But they're having like 2 goal involvements a
yeah,
match. Oh, yeah,
yeah, and
otherworldly, isn't it?
yeah, the best thing in that Manchester City squad is that now Cherki is back on the pitch. I'm so happy for him because
All the time we've got to talk about Manchester City. Okay, but
yeah,
no, I'm going to say absolutely. Sorry, I was teasing. You're right. Cherky being back will sort of.
yeah.
He's not really had the consistency yet to actually get fully involved
No,
in
of
anything.
course, yeah. He just played 5 minutes, and we saw Guardiola talking to him after the game to, I think, to explain to him why he had just played that minute. And but
Quick look at
I'm so
the
happy
top.
for him.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, I'm just going to look at the time because we always run over, so we're being a
Yeah,
bit restricted with time today.
yeah,
Looking at the top of the Premier League, Arsenal are the leaders. They did win 1-0 away at Fulham. A bit of an unremarkable game, but is often described. They're the sort of matches you need to win if you are going to win the title,
yeah.
and they seem to be doing that now.
Yeah, as you said, it was not an easy victory, but yeah, the titles comes from those victory more than I think the big ones against the big teams because when when you win all of your games, sometimes against weaker oppositions, you can be tempted to slow down the pace, and but you have to win this one, and they perfectly did it, even if it's just a 1-0 victory. So yeah,
On
good
top of the
3
Premier
points.
League, Manchester City second on 16. Sorry, Arsenal on 19, 3 points ahead. Bournemouth are third on 15. Liverpool are now fourth. That's 4 matches, so 4 losses in a row for Liverpool in all competitions. What's the big difference? Because it seems like at the start of the season they kept sort of squeaking these wins in the last minute, and the flaws were obvious, but they seem to have be able to overpower that with an attack. It feels a bit like the latter days of Klopp when the first half of the season they were managing to win these matches 3-2, 2-1 kind of thing. and then they sort of petered out towards the end. It does feel like they've just stopped scoring enough goals to keep playing like this. I suppose the question is not just necessarily why is this happening, because with all the new additions and all the new players, obviously the cohesion seems to be missing. But do you think that the players they purchased can play this way together? Because essentially Slot plays like a 4-3-3, and yet they signed Wirtz, who operates in a number 10 role, which Liverpool don't use. It seems like some of these acquisitions, as the level of quality that they are, it seems like a strange like how to blend them all in together.
Yeah, I think the strangest of the moves this summer was to buy Ekitike and Alexander Isaac, because it's great to have those two strikers in the squad, but what do you want to do with them? That's, I think, is the key question, because Slot doesn't seem to play with both on the field. It will create ego issues, I think. I don't know if you saw one of the Ekitike's friends post something on the social networks after the game, like, why didn't Ekitike play? So I think it's not a good thing to have those two big names in the squad, especially since I think Hugo Ekitike had a much better start to the season than Alexander Isaac. So I didn't really understand why he was on the bench against Manchester United. But if we are being honest, the thing is that Liverpool had no real chances. Weren't lucky. Sorry, against Manchester United, because if you see Gakpo eating the spot 3 times,
yeah. And also with the late miss as well. And the thing is, and this is what gets me, I remember Man United beat Liverpool in the FA Cup in Klopp's last season. And it always seemed to be that these were the sort of games that Liverpool and Man United had, which were, it wasn't necessarily the XG, which Liverpool had a significantly higher XG than Manchester United in this match. But the number of transitions and dangerous positions where it was a 4-on-4, and they just didn't make the most of it is infuriating. And that's not in the XG, which is a case of like, oh, had you just played that more sensible pass? And actually, we need to move on. But the last thing I would say is, if anyone basically has a spare 20 minutes, watch the last 20 minutes of that match after Wirtz has come on. Because essentially, and this is why it comes back to, like, why did you sign Wirtz? Wirtz is an astonishing footballer. If you watch Wirtz in the last 20, 30 minutes of that match, he is always in space. So, like, he is always in a position to receive a pass, to, like, give and go and all that, and they do not pass to him. So, therefore, the question is, why did you sign Wirtz if you're not going to use Wirtz? I suppose in my genius tactical mind that I am compared to Slot, although I look like him.
Yeah, I don't know why.
but surely you've got to try the simple thing of give the ball to Wirtz. You know, if you've signed this brilliant playmaker, allow him to play. But we're going to move on. Right, let's move on.
Bravo to Manchester United.
Yes, sorry, I was going to say that. Absolutely credit to Manchester United, because that was genuinely a good performance. And hey, back-to-back Premier League victories for the first time under Amorim. If they get 3 more, then that guy can cut his hair.
Yeah, and he will look like you.
Well, actually, move on, you cheap thing. We're going to move on to La Liga. Oh, sorry. Last word on the Premier League, of course. Wolves still bottom, 2 points, winless. West Ham United still in the relegation zone. Those two clubs really at risk, let's say. But all 3 promoted teams, all of them are out of the relegation zone. Happy times. La Liga, right? We're going to start just by running through the results, and we'll look at a couple. So on Friday, Oviedo lost at home 2-0 to Espanyol. On Saturday, Sevilla lost a surprising result, lost at home to Mallorca. Mallorca registering a valuable victory, 3-1 at Sevilla. Barcelona squeaked a 2-1 victory at home to Girona, a last-minute winner from Araujo. Villarreal 2-2 at home to Betis. Anthony showing why Man United paid all that money for him with a brace, and again, a last-minute equaliser for him. Atletico beat Osasuna 1-0. Almada getting the only goal. On Sunday, Elche drew 0-0 at home to Athletic. Although Elche were the better side, they are playing good football, aren't they? Celta Vigo, another draw. That's 7 draws and 2 losses. 1-1 at home to Real Sociedad. Levante lost at home to Vallecano 3-0. Getafe 0, Real Madrid 1. Real Madrid only won 1-0, despite the fact Getafe were down to 9 men at one point. And finally, Alaves 0, Valencia 0. So before we look at a couple of the matches, the league, let's go from bottom to top, because Girona are still bottom, although slightly unfortunate not to get a point against Barca. But them, Oviedo and Real Sociedad all on 6 points. Celta Vigo only 1 point ahead of them, despite the fact that they've only lost 2 matches this season. Strange question, but so looking at the bottom clubs, Real Sociedad, Girona, these are clubs that probably shouldn't be down there, but are. Out of those two, do you think either of them will be relegated? Because you feel like Real Sociedad should get out of this, but it just doesn't seem like they are.
Yeah, you've mentioned a lot of teams, and it's funny to see that there are 7 teams within 3 points at the end of the table. So it's difficult to say who will be relegated because it's the early season. We are just in how many games? Nine games played in La Liga. So yeah, it's still the early season, but I think Real Sociedad will go up because they have the squad to do it. I think they can adjust their squad in the winter transfer market if they need to. So yeah, they are my favorite to not be relegated. Watching at what Girona did against Barcelona on Sunday, it was okay, not a relegated performance, a relegated team performance. I think. Just to have a word about that game, because we saw a match with extraordinary goals. I think you saw the Axel Witsel goal, the Pedri one, and it was an unexpected scenario and everything. But Girona had, I will not say a good game, but they didn't have a bad game at least. So it's difficult to see them also struggling that much at the bottom of the league. There are 5 lost now. Real Oviedo got 7, but they had just won 2 games. 5 teams have lost 5 games, so it shows that the level of all those teams are quite similar, but the thing is that they will have to win these games, absolutely win these games against Celta, against
I was going to say,
Levante.
by that logic,
Yeah.
surely Celta Vigo are quite at risk, because even though they've drawn 7 and only lost 2, but the inability to win games, which is how you'll climb the table, because as you say, because they're so compact at the bottom, win 2 matches and suddenly you're much more comfortable. But that likewise, if you can't win, you struggle to see how you're able to jump up.
Yeah, and I've been watching Celta Vigo's those 7 games, and they have been able to come back 4 times out of 7. So it shows that they don't give up easily, especially since 2 of their goals happened in the additional time of 2 matches. So they always they won't avoid the defeats, but will it be enough to stay up in La Liga? We can't say yet, but of course they will have to win too, because I can't remember a team having that much draws at this stage of the season, because 7 is it's a lot, to be honest. And the thing is that they don't score a lot of goals, but they don't consider a lot too. So if they can adjust some things, maybe it will help them.
Rather than dive into specific matches, I think something we should talk about was across these matches, what we saw coordinated protests from different captains of these sides. I think Oviedo and Espanyol, they refused to play for the first 15, 20 seconds, something like that.
Yeah,
so all players stood still.
also. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but there were protests across basically every single match in
Yeah.
some. And for those who aren't aware, they're protesting the fact that La Liga are taking one of their league matches to Miami, which was meant to be, is it Villarreal Barca?
Yeah.
So it's just been announced that that is now cancelled, or rather delayed indefinitely. I suppose I'd like to get your opinion on this, because obviously outside the Premier League, other leagues are finding new ways to try and catch up financially to the Premier League. Considering there's such a big Spanish following in many countries, this seems like a logical way to do this. And apart from anything else, football is now an international game, right? So you have big clubs that have international fan bases that would like an official match, not just friendlies and glorified friendlies and so on and so on. But likewise, the schedule that these players have to play that are risking serious injuries, and we have seen an increase in these serious injuries, they're now at breaking points. And then, of course, now you have to ask them to travel even further than is necessary. So I suppose I'd like to get your opinion, also the opinion of like what's in French football. Is there sort of a push towards this, or is there a recognition of actually not going international? Yeah, just your input would be useful in this.
Yeah, in France, the only international game we have is the Trophée des Champions, which is the equivalent of the Super Cup, like they have in Spain when they go to Saudi Arabia. To play
of course, and the same thing in Italy, the Super Cup. Oh, sorry, for context again for people that don't watch these leagues. So the winner of the National Cup used to face the winner of the League. We have the same in England. It's called the Community Shield. But rather than make that a single match, Italy turned it into like a little tournament. And Spain, sorry. So like you had the top four, and they would do like a semi-final and a final, and they would take it to Saudi Arabia.
I think Italy too. I think
so that's a full team as well. So that's like another way to sort of generate more income, because it was a tournament that didn't have significant importance, so fans weren't that unhappy about losing it. Again, that makes more sense. But this is a league match. This is it. I don't know. I'm honestly conflicted, because I think it's hypocritical to say, if your club is international and you have international fans, therefore you shouldn't play an official match in one of those countries that they can see you. But likewise, it's unfair to ask the players. I'm a Newcastle United fan, and at the end of, was it last season, they flew to Australia to play 2 friendlies to generate some extra income. But this is after a season where they played like nearly 50 matches. Like, oh, can you play another 2 after flying for 20 odd hours? And it's no wonder these players are getting fed up, right?
I think it was Manchester United 2 days after the final game of the season. They were, I don't know where, in Asia or Oceania, touring. Maybe it was not Australia, but Malaysia or something like that. Just 2 days after the end of the Premier League. It's a shame, to be honest. And I'm happy that game in Miami has been postponed now, because La Liga told that yesterday that the game will not be played. I think it raises a lot of questions. First, the equity of the league. Why a home game should be played abroad? And I can understand that. Why Villarreal should play one of their 19th game.
So they get 19
in Miami, for example.
matches. and
Yeah,
the Villarreal are expected to give up. Although it has to be said, they are well remunerated. They get significant financial reward for doing that. But because the supporters in Miami would far more likely support Barcelona, suddenly Barcelona have an extra home game. So
and
there's the
when you
sporting element as well.
yeah, and when you pay your season ticket, you want to see those games against Barcelona, Real Madrid, and everything. So there is also a question about with fans, and the thing is that I think it's good that that game has been postponed, because it shows that players got powers.
Yeah.
If they want to, they can have what they want. Because we often talk about the schedule of the games, the number of games in the season. We've heard especially Jules Koundé talking about that. But if they want to say to their federations or to UEFA and FIFA that they don't want something, they can act. And the thing, I think it shows that they're kind of, I will not say hypocrites, but when they said we don't want to play that much games, I can understand that, but accept to be paid less, because I think it's the heart of the problem. And you don't want that much games, okay, we will do like that, but they have to act. They have the power.
It
They are
does
the
feel
actors.
like things have come to a head in case like there's no more wiggle room. Something has to give, and there has to be some sort of
Yeah.
give and take. Right, we'll park that there. Like I say, La Liga, Real Madrid is still top, 24 points. Barcelona on 22. Then you got to jump down to Villarreal in third on 17. Atletico is 16, as are Real Betis. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Real Madrid and Barca already have this big lead, but neither team are really clicking into full gear just yet, are they? They seem to still be like just doing enough to stay in the title
Yeah,
fight, and yet they've already pulled far ahead of everybody.
yeah, that's right. Real Madrid won at Retafe, but it wasn't easy. Even if they were Retafe were 9 men
I will
down.
say, Getafe's first red card was with 15 minutes left, and their second
Yeah,
red card was with 5 minutes of regulation time
yeah.
left. So it's not as if it was a huge amount, but still, it was, yeah.
For a team like Real Madrid, it's obviously important. Yeah.
Go over to Italy, shall we? And Serie A. We're going to start by telling you that there were 10 matches in Serie A, and yet there were 12 clean sheets, which will give you an idea of how very Italian this weekend was. So Lecce drew with Sassuolo, 0-0. Pisa and Verona played, a 0-0 draw. Then in Turin, struggling Torino, pulled off an incredible 1-0 victory against defending champions Napoli. Simeone getting the only goal in that. Roma, undefeated Roma, lost at home to Inter 1-0. Boni getting another goal for his new side. Then on Sunday, Como, an incredible 2-0 victory at home to Juventus. Cagliari, 0, Bologna 2. Genoa and Parma, 0-0. Atalanta, undefeated Atalanta, 0-0 with Lazio. And AC Milan took offence to this and won 2-1 at home to struggling Fiorentina to go top of Serie A. And then on Monday night, Cremonese 1, Udinese 1. So a lot of clean sheets. Great week for goalkeepers. But let's go to the team at the top of the table, AC Milan, who, again, sort of after a tricky start, seem to have got a bit of rhythm, bit of form mostly. It feels like with Napoli and Inter, especially in the Champions League, and with AC Milan having no European football for the first time in, well, God knows how long, it feels like AC Milan in the next few weeks do need to like make that count, because this is a busy period for their rivals and they have the advantage of having a full week of preparation. So it feels like these are AC Milan, wonderful at the top of the table, but it kind of has to be where they are, right?
Yeah, but if we are being honest, I don't think a lot of people expected them to be at the top of the table. But as you said, this is a team that has only play national football, so it will help them to
Domestic
Yeah,
relevance.
domestic of so it will be helpful for them. This is a team that has lost only one game this season against Cremonese, if I remember correctly, on the first match day. They conceded only one draw, so they made the most of their games with 5 wins. They had we've mentioned in the past weeks the good performances from Luka Modric. They recruited Adrien Rabiot from Marseille, who is also a good player, knowing Italian Serie A football. Rafael Leao and Christian Pulisic seem to be really in form today. So they have this good season, this good start to the season. They will now need to confirm it in the next weeks.
Go from AC Milan to Juventus. I mean, also credit to Como. Como, it seems like they have a high ceiling but quite a low floor. So it seems like they have a couple of sort of underwhelming results, but they have the ability to beat basically most teams in Serie A.
No, I think.
So looking at the table, AC Milan are top on 16, Inter and Napoli and Roma on 15. I mean, 1 point separating 4 teams. This is why Serie A is so entertaining, right? If you include Juve in that, who are actually beneath Bologna in 6th place on 12 points. If you include Juve in this title race, it's going to be a fantastic season. But I suppose I would highlight. Okay, so Juventus losing at Como, their undefeated status, but it's not as if they were like unlucky. They really sort of out of nowhere, they seem to have stumbled. Do you think the international break, because you can have this occasion with international breaks, a team losing cohesion and losing momentum? Do you think Juve have struggled?
To be honest,
they look quite stodgy.
Yeah. That loss to Como was deserved to be. If we are being honest, Nico Paz scored again, assisted again. He's now 4 goals and 4 assists this season. Great player. It seems like he can do everything. And if we talk about Juve, looking at the squad, I don't think it's a squad that can compete with Napoli and Inter and AC Milan at the top of the table. To be honest, it's not a champion squad, and more of that you can see. For example, Jonathan David, who arrived this summer, struggled on his debut. I saw that they extended the contract of Daniele Rugani, which I don't understand that move. Juve is not when you just look back 6 or 7 years ago, the Juve squad and today's, it's creepy to be honest, and I don't think they are real contender to win the title.
Fair enough. And one other thing, I mean, also we should say like Roma losing at home to Inter. It was a real slog. Inter opened the score in the 6th minute. But the most interesting statistic I found in that match were Inter committed 29 fouls and only got 3 yellow cards. So it did seem there was a bit of let's say game management.
Yeah, and I think the strangest thing in that game was the bonus goal, because it looks like the speed has been slowed down. I think he received the ball, then he thinks he was offside. He was offside. He slows down. Then the defender came back on him, and luckily he scores anyway, because it would have been a shame if he didn't. It's a crucial victory for Inter ahead of their trip to Napoli next week.
That's a big game already. Yeah. That's a big game.
I would not say it's a turning point yet, because it's only the seventh match day of the season. But if you beat Roma and Napoli away, it would be a strong message to the competition.
Yeah. Last word. I mean, I was going to say we could mention Fiorentina again, but it's the same old, same old. The fact that they're still in the relegation zone after is it 7 matches now, or 8 matches? Yeah, but the fact is, like, Lazio have been pulling away. Incredible result for Torino at home to Napoli, so giving them a bit of breathing space and a bit of room. But a word on Atalanta. So we were talking about Celta Vigo in La Liga, the fact they had 7 draws, 2 losses. Atalanta are still undefeated. 2 matches, drawn 5.
Yeah.
They are currently down in 7th place. So, I mean, they're only 5 points behind the leaders. But you do wonder, I mean, first of all, should be credit towards the manager, who we thought that there might be a bit of a drop-off after Gasperini left. And obviously he had an underwhelming time. I forget his name. He was at Southampton. And
Ivan Juric.
Thank you, Ivan Juric. Yeah. So clearly they've had a really positive. He's had a positive effect, defensively sound, really well organised. But it seems they're losing that potency up front, and it might cost them, because the longer this goes on, as we see with Celta Vigo, if you have the fewer wins, you are just going to keep dropping and dropping because other teams around you are winning.
Yeah, you have mentioned the draws. They have drawn 3 games in a row now, but I think compared to Celta Vigo, there is a context, because they traveled to Turin to play against Juve. They hosted Como, so 2 well-placed team in Serie A, and 2. Even if I said I don't think Juve will play the title, or not contender for the title, they're a big team in the Serie A. Como, we've said it, they can beat everyone. So they faced tough opponents. So ultimately, it's not a bad result to draw about these teams, but yeah, they will have to win if they want to play Champions League football next season, because make a lot of draws. It's not the best thing for them, but it would be interesting to see when they will be able to finally win a game back.
Yeah. And finally, let's move on to the Bundesliga. We always leave this till the end currently, because really we're going to highlight one match. We'll give you the fixtures. So Union Berlin won at home 3-1 against Borussia Mönchengladbach, whose issues just keep piling up. Heidenheim drew at home against Bremen 2-2. The second half was very fun. It was 0-0 at halftime. Köln drew 1-1 against Augsburg. Leverkusen won 4-3 away at Mainz. Very fun game there. Leipzig's good form continues with a 2-1 win at home against Hamburger. Wolfsburg lost at home 3-0 against Stuttgart. Wolfsburg in a bit of trouble. We'll cover in a second. Bayern, the only undefeated team left in Germany after beating Borussia Dortmund 2-1 in the Klassiker. Another goal by Harry Kane. Then on Sunday, Freiburg and Frankfurt played out a 2-2 draw before St. Pauli lost at home 3-0 to Hoffenheim. So the big talking point was the Klassiker. Bayern, undefeated Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund seemed to get a bit rabbit in the headlights, right? They seemed to be a bit overawed. Bayern led 2-0 quite easily before a late Julian Brandt goal pulled things back to keep it interesting. But Bayern showed that they are by far the strongest team in this league.
Yeah, but honestly, I didn't find Dortmund look ridiculous in that game. They failed to take the chances that came their way. I can think about Guirassy, who could have scored 2 goals, for example. But the main point of that game was Harry Kane. You've mentioned this goal, but everything he did was masterclass. He was not a striker for that game. He was like midfielder, 8.
It
10,
should be set out. So, like this season, the head coach Vincent Kompany seems to have instructed Kane to drop even deeper which is really funny because like in the last Euros, there was this big thing about Kane having to stay high. He has to stay high, and yet in this tactical setup, it's like no. He's quite often coming to take the ball off the centre backs. That's the integral role of him because he is a playmaker and a finisher. But also that allows players like Gnabry and Elise more space to sort of roam up front.
Yeah, of course. And I think when you have that kind of player, he can score, he can set up goals, he can runs for himself, runs for the others. He can do everything. He can recover balls. He can. He's just. I think he's almost the ultimate striker because you can use him as a nine, a true nine, a real nine, like a second attacker, like a 10 if he wants to, a false nine. You can use him at basically every place on the field, and yeah, he was breathtaking against Dortmund. Yet once again, because he's been tremendous since his signing for Bayern. And it's been 10 years to be, if we just recall, it's been 10 years. He's exceptional, even if he was mocked because of his trophy draw. He has always been a special striker at Tottenham.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So looking at the top of the Bundesliga, Bayern now 5 points ahead on 21 points. Leipzig are second on 16. Stuttgart have 15. Dortmund have 14. Leverkusen have recovered to get 14. So it's interesting that Dortmund have just lost their first game of the season, and yet they're down in fourth. So it does seem like the more interesting story in the Bundesliga is who's going to finish second and third and fourth, because it looks like that is a huge pylon of Leipzig, Stuttgart, Dortmund, Leverkusen. Frankfurt have dropped off the boil a little bit, although they just because they just concede so many goals. It looks like that's going to be the real story, right? That's going to be the really fun part.
Yeah, we don't really talk about Leipzig and Stuttgart, but their start to the season is very good too. You've mentioned the victory of Leipzig against Hamburg this weekend. I don't know if you saw the tie for Poulsen, who is now at Hamburg, and he was a Leipzig player for I don't know how many years, but he received a tribute.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, Leipzig. I will not say it's the same thing that AC Milan, but because there are different clubs, different squad, different level, of course, and they have different opposition with Bayern Munich, but they will not play. They don't have any European football to play this season. So, with one game in hand every week, it's basically
which is helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful considering how you're saying how many new players they've had and the turnover.
Yeah, and young players.
Having that full week to train them all does help.
Yeah, and they have young players too, so it's easier for the manager to work with them in those conditions. So yeah, and you talked about Leverkusen. I think Ullman, has turned Bayer around.
Partially, it has to be said. Yeah. They were.
But the only
horrible result against Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, and it was his first loss since his arrival. So in 8 games, I think he won 4 times. So okay, when we talked about the Erik ten Hag's Bayer Leverkusen, it was horrible. He was fired after 3 weeks, I think. So yeah, Udmont had a lot of works. He has a good base on of footballers, because we can talk about Grimaldo, who already scored 5 this season. We can talk about Edmond Tapsoba, who is a good defender, an experienced defender in Bundesliga. The Christian Kofani, the striker who has scored 3 games in a row now. So he had a good base of players. So now we will have to just adjust with him.
Keep up the good work, though, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, just a final word, because we've reached the hour mark. We're about to finish, but just a final word on the Bundesliga. At the bottom, Borussia Mönchengladbach, still only on 3 points, still in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah.
Heidenheim on 4, Mainz on 4, but Wolfsburg are only outside of the relegation spots by a single point. So they're having a difficult start to the season as well. Before we go, just a massive congratulations and a word to Mjällby. For those who don't know, they have just won the Swedish title. Why are we mentioning that? Well, because Mjällby is a town of fewer than 1,000 people. So the fact that they've won the Swedish title is astonishing. They've won 20 of their 27 matches this season, and they've won the title with 3 matches to spare. And the biggest thing is the fact that they less than 10 years ago they were in the 3rd tier of Swedish football and they were nearly bankrupt. So in less than 10 years, going from the 3rd tier, no money, and suddenly they own the Champions League. They've won the Swedish title. Astonishing story. Again, town of fewer than 1,000 people, and they give me the Champions League. Amazing. Right, we're going to end that there. Thank you so much once again, Leo, for joining me.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, everybody who's been watching. Thank you, everybody either watching live or watching recorded, etc., etc. Hey, feel free to find us on the social medias, the YouTubes, the X's, the all the others. And we'll see you next week. Until then, have a great old time. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.